Okay, so what I'm going to do right now is some spoken word. I'm not sure if everyone's familiar with it. It's just performance art based on the spoken word. And so it generally consists of storytelling or poetry. I'm not a poet. I don't claim to be a poet. Those nominations Michael mentioned were definitely not for my poetry. But basically I see it as a soapbox to express your views, life experiences, emotions to other people. So to my right, we tried to get some bongos or hand drum, unsuccessfully. So we had to be resourceful. And one last thing, in spoken word, after a performance, we don't clap, we snap. Okay, here we go. I call this Imposter Without a Cause. Have you ever heard of imposter syndrome? That lurking, sinking, throbbing feeling that you'll soon be exposed for the intellectual and professional fraud that you are. You're your standard human being, while everyone else is an avatar. Well, I'm the imposter to beat. I have a full-blown case of this stuff. If you tried to come close to my imposter ways, it would be pretty darn tough. I introduce myself to my fellow classmates as they list off their resume, and each time they open their mouths, I feel like a complete fool. Great things they tell me as they list off their resume. I discovered the cure for cancer, started a global charity, graduated with 2 PhDs, and hiked Everest in one day. You don't say. I'm a journalism major. I worked at a public radio station. I know how to dance to Michael Jackson's Thriller, I replied. As I imagine them thinking, how the heck did this girl get by? I find myself asking the same thing if only they knew. The obvious lapses in the system that allowed me to get through. As my classmates and I work in groups figuring out the diagnosis, I unsuccessfully cover up my ignorance of thrombosis. How did you know that? Are we supposed to know that? Did they teach us this? How do you treat it? Was this in the book? I wouldn't know. I didn't read it. And then came the glorious day my disguise was revealed. They would know really who I was. Everything I concealed. It's October 9th, 2012. I entered the class, my hair all disheveled. That was the least of my problems, as I would soon learn, because everyone was about to watch me crash and burn. Sure, I had that whole imposter thing going for me, but that wasn't all. I hadn't gone over the pre-reading and did not want to get called. In retrospect, I guess that was kind of my fault. This was my first ever neuroscience class. First impressions are important and tend to last. So the professor went through his cup of names to pick the next person to grill. Please, I repeated. I was starting to feel ill. My heart is racing. Could I be having a myocardial infarction? My sympathetic nervous system going crazy. Epinephrine rushing me out. It calls my face. My fingers going to shout.
Farah Dosani.
Oh, God. I voiced out to the crowd. Yep, I just said that out loud. I walked down to the front of the class, shaking my head, my arms convulsing, face full of dread. I introduced myself to the professor. Hi, I'm an imposter. Somehow, some way, I was able to didn't really happen, but it played out in my mind. I tried to keep my cool. I hoped he would be kind. The professor asked, "So, what do you see on the screen up there?" I look at the slide, I give it a stare. It looks like a third grader's art project. My hoping, my thoughts, and what I actually said out loud were no longer in sync. I replied to the professor, not sure. It looks like, I don't know. Jim has a PhD in neuroscience. You should ask him. He's the pro. Question after question, I stood there with a blank. All right already, I'm a fraud. Just let me walk over the plank. At the end of the lecture, I knew my imposter status was out. The class knew exactly who I was. There was no longer a single doubt. I turned to the professor to give my full confession. I gave him the whole truth, everything, without discretion. I'm a non-science major who worked as a reporter 2 years to date. I haven't taken a science class since 2008. How I got into medical school, I'm still trying to figure out. There must have been some type of qualified applicant drought. The professor said, no, don't need to say that. Be more kind. I just wish you had done the pre-reading. I'd signed. It was all in there. He smiled and said, "See you next class." I walked away in disbelief, my hands still shaking from the stress. My fellow classmates thanked me for taking one for the team. They didn't know the answer as well. I mean, come on, medicine is one hard act to sell. Heck, I'm in a room full of imposters right now, all within my sight. You got a ballroom dancer, a glass blower, a contractor, even a girl playing a box. So maybe you all have our unique skills to bring to this place for us to open our minds, take both arms, and embrace. So if there's one, yes. So if there's one thing I've learned from this experience in public beating, imposter or not, kids, just do your pretty